In my newly built house, Emma, who is my husband's mother, suddenly appeared. She always threw sarcastic comments. Influenced by her unpleasant attitude, my husband gradually became cold toward me. I became increasingly unable to tolerate their behavior and finally lost my temper. But instead of trying to calm my anger, Emma hurled even more provocative words.
You cannot be called a family member of this house. You should leave my son's house.
Surprised by these unexpected words, I looked at my husband. He, with a slight smile, spoke further, testing me.
Did you hear what my mother said? Are you fulfilling your role as a member of our family?
Hearing those words, my anger reached its peak. In this house, there was only Emma who insulted me and a husband who didn't consider my feelings. Determinedly, I calmly conveyed my final words to them. I understand. I will leave this house. About a month later, the two of them learned a big lesson. My name is Jenny. At 31, I enjoy living in the city center. Married 2 years ago, I now work with my husband, living the urban life as a working housewife. After graduating from college, I got a chance to work at one of the leading cosmetic brands in the country. Since joining the company, I've been dedicated to my job with passion. I first met my husband Kyle at a mutual friend's wedding. He works hard at a stable, local company. Our relationship lasted about 2 years, and then I received a marriage proposal from Kyle. I wholeheartedly accepted the proposal, greeted my parents about the marriage, and then planned to greet Kyle's family. His parents are already divorced, and his mother lives quietly in an apartment in a corner of the city. The first time I visited his mother's house, she closely examined me from head to toe and then started saying something surprising.
Oh, Kyle, you're thinking of building a future with a woman like this.
Excuse me? As I was shocked by her sudden words, she continued speaking.
You're quite tall, and your face seems a bit stern. If you're together, won't Kyle become completely submissive?
Well. Before I could respond, Kyle began to speak from the side.
Mom, don't worry. Jenny and I have built a good relationship, so there's no need for concern in that regard. I'll make sure she knows her role as a wife.
Well, you don't have to worry about that. I'll teach you everything you need to know. With that, I approve of the marriage.
That's reassuring, Jenny. Now I can relax.
Internally shocked, I put on a brave face and smiled. Upon returning home, I decided to voice my doubts and dissatisfaction with Kyle. Kyle, what did you mean by educating the wife? Don't you think that's a bit much?
Look, my mom has traditional values and is a bit old-fashioned. I used those words to put her at ease.
Even so, wasn't that a bit harsh?
Sorry, but I don't think that way. We're bound by deep love, and I've never thought about such things.
Okay, if you say so, I'll believe you. After that conversation, we formally got married, and Kyle moved into my apartment. However, just 2 months after the marriage, Kyle dropped a shocking revelation.
Jenny, the truth is, I might lose my job. What do you think about that?
What? How did this happen?
I faced severe criticism from my boss due to a failure in an important project. But honestly, I felt from the beginning that the workplace's atmosphere and policies weren't right for me. So I'm considering exploring other opportunities.
But such sudden news. What about our future plans? Any prospects for a new job?
Don't worry too much. I'm planning to look for job offers.
As expected, Kyle eventually lost his job. Accepting that reality wasn't easy, but Kyle didn't seem down and continued with his day-to-day life. However, I didn't sense any eagerness from him to find a new job. As I led a busy life, he even took solo hiking trips to nearby mountains. Kyle, are you really looking for a new job? He responded with a hint of impatience.
How many times do I have to tell you? Besides, your salary is quite good, so I think we'll be okay for a while. I don't see a need to rush.
It's true my income was pretty decent. However, that's a different issue. And I had another big concern, the frequent meddling from Emma. After our marriage, without any notice, she started visiting our home twice a week. Then, one day, as usual, without prior notice, Emma showed up at our home.
Hey, Kyle, it's been a while. I just came by to visit.
Oh, Mom, you came at the perfect time. Come in and make yourself comfortable.
Kyle, in a cheerful mood, invites Emma into the living room. Internally, I felt displeased with his action, but I made sure not to show it on my face so neither of them would notice. However, I really wasn't pleased with the sudden visit, so I decided to discuss it with her. Emma, actually, I'd really appreciate it if you could give us a heads up before visiting next time, for planning and preparation. As I gently made the request, her eyes narrowed slightly, and she shot me a sharp look.
What are you talking about? Why should I announce every time I visit my precious son's home?
I just hoped you would understand.
Before that, is the house clean? I see dust on the floor. Are you taking proper care of it?
I hadn't anticipated being called out on the cleanliness, since she arrived just before I began cleaning. I apologized, bowing my head, saying, "I'm very sorry." Although Kyle had been home all this time, he rarely helped with household chores, which was apparent. Even after this incident, his mother continued to visit unannounced, often staying for long hours while chatting happily with Kyle. I began to feel stressed due to her surprise visits and found fewer moments of genuine relaxation. The 4 months after Kyle lost his job felt incredibly long and hard. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore and decided to introduce Kyle to a real estate agency run by a college friend of mine. He hesitated at first, but he got an interview opportunity and managed to secure a sales position at the company. Just as I began to feel relieved, about 6 months after Kyle started his job, he approached me with a slightly dejected expression.
Jenny, actually, I haven't been able to secure as many contracts as I had hoped in the 6 months since I started sales.
Wait, is that really true?
Yo, if this continues, my position at this company might be in danger. I need to think of the next step.
From his words at that moment, I strongly felt the challenges Kyle was facing in his job. In that case, all you can do is try even harder. Encouraged by my words, Kyle pulled out a pamphlet of a newly constructed apartment from his work bag.
Actually, I had this idea. What about considering a new place to live? I think signing a contract for this apartment might positively impact my sales performance.
That's appealing, but...
Please, Jenny, neither of us wants me to be unemployed again, right?
Taking his sincere plea into account, I had indeed been looking for a new place to avoid my Emma's visits. So, I thought this proposal might be our next step and decided to agree. With us stepping into the new apartment, a new chapter in our life began. During the apartment buying process, given Kyle's work history and current employment status, it became challenging to get a loan approved solely under his name. The reasons include his frequent job changes and a short duration at his current job. On the other hand, since I held a stable position in a major company, it was comparatively easy to get a loan under my name. Therefore, the purchase of the new house proceeded only under my name. Kyle didn't show interest in the actual procedures or financial planning and left everything to me. However, it seemed he was genuinely looking forward to the apartment purchase being counted as a success in his job. With the relocation to the new home, there were changes in our daily life. Notably, moving away from Emma's house and the cessation of her sudden visits was a relief to me. I often murmured to myself, just by not having Emma visiting unexpectedly, I feel so much at ease. However, the joy of a new life was short-lived. Just a few months after moving to the new apartment, one day, when I returned from an outing, a large moving truck was parked in front of the apartment. At first, I thought a neighbor was moving and was about to pass the truck. But as I approached our entrance, I realized that the furniture and luggage being moved from the truck belonged to Emma, and I was taken aback. Wait, what's going on? As I stepped into the room with those words, I saw Kyle and a smug-looking Emma.
What do you mean? I'm just moving in my stuff.
Why would you?
From now on, I've decided to live here. I've already given up my previous residence.
What? At that moment, Kyle approached me.
Think about it rationally. Isn't it cruel to leave my mom alone? How about we try living together?
What are you talking about, Kyle? I was lost for words in astonishment. In the background, Emma's belongings were being moved into our new home one after another. In the end, she unilaterally chose the room we had intended for our future child's room as her own. And thus, unexpectedly, our life with Emma began. The subsequent daily life became incredibly challenging, beyond words. Every early morning, I was woken up by Emma and was ordered around to do housework under her meticulous directions. Whenever I didn't meet Emma's expectations, she would immediately snap at me.
Can't you even do something this simple? You're such an unreliable wife.
Every day, despite Emma staying at home all the time, she never helped with any chores, leaving everything to me. I repeatedly expressed my dissatisfaction to Kyle, but his responses were always dismissive.
As a wife, shouldn't you properly accept and fulfill the wishes and requests of Emma? Maybe the situation is like this because you can't meet her expectations, Jenny.
This kind of day-to-day life continued for over a month, and both my body and mental increasingly couldn't handle the pressure. I started losing focus at work and began making minor mistakes. As a result, I began receiving more warnings from my supervisor. Although I felt the current lifestyle was clearly unsustainable, I couldn't find a way to break out of the situation. In deep despair, I began to keep divorce papers at hand as the only solution I could think of. One evening, as usual, I prepared a dinner menu of stewed fish, sautéed spinach, miso soup, and white rice, and served it to both Emma and Kyle. However, Emma approached the kitchen with a displeased look and began to vent her frustrations.
Another simple meal. I've told you many times I want meat. Why do you serve fish again?
Honestly, I wanted meat today too. And compared to my mom's cooking, Jenny, your food still has a long way to go. Maybe you really aren't the exemplary wife after all.
Kyle always yielded to Emma's words and promptly complied with her demands and wishes. Although it might have seemed like he was just being dutiful to his mother, at times it appeared excessively so. Observing his behavior, she would further speak to him.
Isn't that right, Kyle? If this bride can't meet your expectations, why not consider looking for a new life partner through dating again?
That suggestion might be worth considering.
Kyle glanced at me with a subtle smile after saying those words. The pain in my heart reached its limit when I saw his attitude, and so I stood up to express my feelings. I have feelings too. I can't stand being ignored and insulted like this. Upon hearing my words, Emma looked surprised. Maybe she underestimated me, not expecting me to talk back. But then she smirked and responded.
Such a way to talk as a wife. It's really unladylike. This is Kyle's and my house. You are just a bride. So just accept what's told to you.
I turned to Kyle, hoping for his support.
I think Mom has a point. Maybe you should reconsider your role as a wife.
In that moment, the anger inside me reached its peak. I felt that I couldn't stand my life in this house anymore. With a calm yet determined voice, I spoke. I no longer wish to stay here. Hearing my proclamation, both Emma and Kyle were taken aback. After a moment of surprise, they exchanged glances and smirked sarcastically. I slowly spread the divorce papers I had prepared in advance on the table. Kyle, our relationship is beyond repair. Divorce seems to be the best option now. Kyle's eyes were filled with a mix of surprise and confusion.
Kyle, what are you pondering? Sign those papers immediately. Marrying such a woman was a mistake from the start.
Okay, Mom, I understand.
Regardless of the situation, seeing Kyle always follow his mother's words filled my heart with complex emotions. I began deeply regretting my marriage to him. After taking the divorce papers, I looked around the room, decided to gather my precious belongings and leave the house. As I approached the front door, Emma said one more thing in a cold voice.
From the moment you joined our family, I felt that you didn't fit in. Please never show your face to us again.
All right, don't worry. This will be our final farewell. As I left the newly built apartment, I felt a tinge of sadness, but I continued on. After that, I went to the city hall to finalize my divorce, taking the first step toward my new independent life. I then made a phone call to pass on some important information about a specific location. A few weeks later, while I was enjoying a peaceful morning at my parents' home, the doorbell rang. To my surprise, the intercom displayed Kyle, who looked quite anxious, and my clearly angry Emma. "Why have you come here?" In response to my simple question, Emma answered with an agitated voice.
Open the door immediately. We have urgent matters to discuss.
Considering the peace of the neighborhood, I reluctantly opened the door to my parents' house and led them to the living room. Minutes later, Emma, with a face flushed in anger, slammed some documents onto the table.
What on earth is this eviction notice? Are you trying to drag us to court? Explain yourself.
I took a deep breath and calmly replied, "This is from the lawyer who's acting on my behalf. Unfortunately, under the current circumstances, you'll have to vacate the premises."
How could this happen? We've done nothing wrong.
"Kyle, didn't you explain the situation to your mother?" At my question, Kyle looked embarrassed and lowered his head, unable to respond.
What are you talking about, Kyle? Why did you keep such an important matter from me?
"The truth is, I'm the owner of that apartment. Both the funds used for the purchase and the monthly mortgage payments have been under my name, and I've been responsible for them." Emma was visibly shocked by this revelation.
Why is this the case? Kyle, what have you been hiding?
Well, I initially said it was mine to please you. But as you were so happy about it, I couldn't bring myself to tell the truth.
"So, I'd like you to vacate the apartment within a week. If you fail to do so, I'll consider legal action."
Wait. If we change the ownership to Kyle, can't we continue living there? We want a stable place to live.
Kyle glanced at me but looked down, seemingly conflicted. "Kyle, is that what you really want? Kyle, haven't you told her about that incident?" Kyle couldn't meet my gaze.
What is that incident?
You might be shocked, but Kyle has actually lost his job. After deciding on divorce, the first thing I did was contact a close friend of mine, who was also Kyle's boss. He confided in me about Kyle's poor performance and attitude at work. Knowing this, I apologized and asked my friend to fire Kyle without hesitation. As a result, Kyle lost his job 2 weeks ago. I assumed you already knew, but it seems Kyle was hiding the truth.
What? How could this happen?
The situation had become clearer, but many challenges lay ahead.
Why did this happen? How did it come to this?
With Emma's shock evident, I elaborated further. Kyle's job performance was unsatisfactory, and on top of that, someone who indulges in gambling during work hours is unnecessary in any company. In fact, my friend was his direct supervisor, so I requested that Kyle be fired. Now that we're officially divorced, there's no reason to treat him specially. Emma was visibly shaken and confused by this revelation. At that moment, Kyle suddenly bowed his head deeply in apology in front of us.
Jenny, I'm truly sorry for making you feel this way. Please forgive me, just one more chance.
What? Why are you apologizing to your ex-wife like this, Kyle?
I find it hard to live without Jenny. I want to live in that apartment, and if possible, I'd like to ask for a referral to a new job, and to cherish our time as a family once more.
Even if you say that now, it won't change anything. You can't meet expectations at work. You always listen only to your mother, and you're indifferent to me. Why should I have to forgive you in this situation?
Jenny, I'm truly sorry. I regret everything, so I want to make it right one more time.
At that moment, Emma, deeply disturbed, spoke out.
Jenny, please try to understand Kyle's feelings. He's apologizing so earnestly. Why are you lashing out with such harsh words? Do you lack any human compassion?
I had reached my breaking point. This situation is all due to your intrusive actions. You came into my house without permission, always complaining. Why should I have any sympathy for him when he grew up in such an environment? You caused this. Sensing my determination, a mix of surprise and fear could be read from her eyes. I want both of you to leave my house immediately. There's no need for you to stay here any longer. Now, please leave without any hesitation. With those words, I firmly requested them to leave my home. A few days later, I heard rumors that Emma and Kyle had started moving out of my luxurious condo. Since neither had stable jobs, it seemed the only place they could afford was an old, worn-out apartment. Although Kyle is diligently looking for a new job due to financial reasons, it appears to be challenging. As a result, I heard he's juggling several part-time jobs to make ends meet. And Emma, due to financial hardships, chose to work in a factory. The job she chose is physically and mentally demanding, something she probably never imagined she'd be doing in her younger years. The two, now living in the same place, are said to be arguing almost daily due to the stress from long work hours. To me, their current situation is no longer my concern. They've become distant strangers. After making the decision to let go of my condo, I've been enjoying life at my parents' home. The absence of stress from my former Emma and ex-husband has made me feel more motivated and enthusiastic about my work. Waking up every morning has become a joy, and I've begun to appreciate the small joys of daily life. In this new chapter of my life, I not only want to continue working hard, but also to find someone who truly believes in me and brings true value to my life.